Hello, how are you all doing today? I'm very well, thank you. I hope you're all doing well too. I'm ready to share with you some rather big news today. And this is the news that my wife and I are having a baby. And this baby is due probably sometime this week. So it has taken me a very long time to get to the point where I feel ready to tell you about this. And there has been a number of reasons why I've been putting it off. So from the very start, sort of like almost 9 months ago now, when my wife told me she thinks she might be pregnant, that was just it was a think. We didn't know for sure. It wasn't certain. And then eventually we, went to like a hospital, and they did some various tests and said, yep, you're pregnant. But it's not actually that simple, and I didn't know this. I know very little. I know more now, but I knew very little about pregnancy and all that kind of stuff. It's not too uncommon in the early stages of pregnancy to lose the baby. So just because you're pregnant doesn't guarantee that you're going to have a baby. So initially, we were sort of like, we're having a baby possibly, but we don't really know for sure yet. So we ended up waiting a while until the advice from the doctors, until the doctors were sort of saying they were more certain before we told our parents. And they were surprised, I think is, a good word for it. I think the way that we told my wife's parents is we said, let's go out for a drink somewhere, let's go out for some food somewhere, because we've got some news we'd like to tell you, or it was something we want to talk about. I don't think we said we had some news. We just said there's something we'd like to talk about. And then we told them what this news was, and I think they'd sort of guessed it, to be honest. So perhaps they weren't too surprised. But when I told my parents, it was just, like a normal, time that we'd normally talk, like video chat over the internet. So they weren't really expecting anything. I couldn't invite them out, for a meal or something like that. So it's just chatting normally, and then I just happened to mention, that my wife is pregnant, and so I think they were a lot more shocked. But even when we were telling them, we were sort of saying it could still go either way. So there could be some complications, and things might not work out as planned. So it did feel like a lot for a long time. We were just sort of waiting to see is everything going to be okay or not. So I waited even longer before letting the rest of my family know, like my sisters and also my friends. And then only probably, maybe less than a month ago, I actually told my company, because, I had to book some time off from my job, which is fine. I've got lots of holiday to use up still, so that was no problem. But I just thought, I should let my company know. I should tell them I might have to rush off to hospital soon. So yeah, I've only just got round to telling them, and now I finally feel ready to be able to tell all of you. There was another issue that sort of delayed me from mentioning anything, and that was the baby that we're having is a little bit smaller than the baby should be. And every time we were going to the hospital for a routine checkup, the doctors would mention this and say, it's a little smaller than the baby should be at this stage, I think about 3 weeks, smaller than the baby should be. And they kept mentioning it, and they kept saying as far as we can see, everything's okay, but we're a little concerned about this. And of course, I was a bit worried. My wife was a bit worried. We're still a bit worried. The baby is still a bit underweight, but it looks a lot less worrying now than it did before. And on this podcast, I do try to filter out some of the bad news. I suppose because I don't really like talking about bad news, and also if I was listening to a podcast, I don't necessarily like to hear bad news, I want to hear something a bit more positive if possible. I mean, I don't mind someone like moaning about something every now and again, like saying, this could be better, or, I wish they sold this in the supermarkets or something, like I will often say. But yeah, like that kind of serious news where it makes you worry about someone or worry about something, I don't like to pass that on to you if possible. So that probably is the main reason, actually, why it's taken me so long to get around to sharing this information with you, because I just wanted to make sure, as much as possible, everything looked like it was going to be fine. And for a long time, we've been sort of waiting to find that out. It's only in the last 2 or 3 trips that we've made, weekly trips that we've made to the hospital, where things have been sounding a lot more promising. So, for example, for a long time, this baby has been upside down, like not the correct way up. So because of that, my wife had been booked into the hospital for what's known as a cesarean section. So basically, they just cut the stomach open and take the baby out through the stomach. So because of this, they'd booked my wife into the hospital like a little earlier than the baby was due, which wouldn't have been ideal because the baby was already a little underweight. So if you take the baby out a little earlier, then it doesn't really help. And they were saying because of the weight of the baby, they expect that the baby's going to have to be placed in it's called neonatal intensive care unit. Neonatal is just a fancy way of saying like recently born, like a newborn baby. And intensive care is just, needs a lot of care, a lot of watching, a lot of checking. So like that kind of unit, that kind of place within the hospital. It's looking a lot less likely that will happen now, because the baby has flipped upside down at the very, very last minute and is now the correct way up, which is just amazing. We, like my wife and I, we were prepared for this operation where they cut your stomach open, this cesarean section or C section. And then we went for a scan and the baby had turned upside down. So that changed everything around and changed all of our plans, and I'd booked time off from work, and then the time was in the wrong place and all this kind of stuff. So where we are at the moment is we are waiting for the baby to come, and the baby should arrive very, very soon. Like I said, it should probably be here within this week. So it's feeling very real at the moment. It feels like I am right up against like this point in time, like a line I'm going to be stepping over from like childless to having children, from like just a couple to becoming a family, or just from being sort of me to becoming like a father, which still hasn't settled in. It still doesn't feel real for me, and that's probably another reason why I've sort of delayed talking about it. There have been many reasons why I've delayed telling you about it. And one of them is just, it's a bit scary, to be honest. And like when you talk about it, when you tell someone, when you how you're feeling, how you're thinking about it, it makes it seem very, very real. Which isn't exactly a bad thing, I mean, sometimes I've had like a whole range of emotions when I'm thinking about the future. Sometimes I'm a bit worried, a bit scared, and then other times I'm like really happy about it and feeling excited. So it just changes. But yeah, talking about it and telling you all about it really makes it feel even more real. But of course, this week it's about to get even more real. But even though we're so close now, even though the baby should be born this week, it still doesn't feel real to me. I mean, I can see my wife. I can see the shape of her stomach has changed a lot. It's a lot bigger. But yeah, it's just so hard to picture what life is going to be like in the future, and I just can't imagine myself being a father. It's really weird. Like the idea of it is really weird for me. Anyway, I think I might talk about this again pretty soon, and I'm going to leave it there for now. I've got a few more things that I'd like to say in another episode coming soon, but until then, that is my big news, huge news that I've been waiting for a long time to share with you. So, yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed listening to this episode, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Bye-bye.